Good evening and welcome to We the People, brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Minneapolis. My name is Joan Higinbotham and I'll be your host for this evening's program. For the past several years, the League of Women Voters of Minneapolis has done a program called Healthy Legacy, and we've focused on different aspects of life in the city that lead to healthier citizens. And one of the things that was most interesting to me, and I think to our audience as well, was gardening, all kinds of urban agriculture. And since it's springtime, we thought this would be a great time to talk a little more in depth about how you too could possibly benefit from urban gardening. Our guests this evening are Russ Henry, and Russ is from Giving Tree Gardens, and he is also the co-chair of Homegrown Minneapolis. Welcome.
Thank you, Joan. Welcome. Thank you.
And our other guest this evening is Joan James, and she is the proprietor of a backyard farm. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I think probably what our listeners want to know is, how did you get started in gardening?
Well, I have my mom to thank for that. I was gardening with my mom since I was a little kid. And we gardened on the farm we lived in. We moved to the city. We gardened in the city. And she taught me that we could grow vegetables and flowers anywhere we went.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, then you're the perfect person to talk about urban gardening, which is our topic for today. And how about you, Joan?
I have been community gardening for 30 years. And we saw people would start with the gardens. They'd be beautiful. They'd be perfect. And then they'd fail.
Sounds familiar to me.
And so we realized that we had a successful system and decided that we wanted to teach people how to grow their own food. So
that's how you got started. Well, now I mentioned when we started that you're the co-chair of Homegrown Minneapolis. What exactly is that?
We're the Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council, and we are an advisory body for the city. So we advise the mayor, the city council, and the department heads in the city on ways to improve the local food system. We're always looking for ways to make it easier to grow, sell, buy, eat, and compost more healthy, locally grown food.
Mm-hmm. And so that's a place to start, because I know that the city has gotten to be much more garden friendly, hasn't it?
Indeed, yeah, in lots of ways. From backyard gardening, where we've allowed folks now to kind of, have the natural prairie if they want, or have their whole yard in gardens if they like.
You don't have to mow?
You don't have to mow anymore. It used to be. And we expanded the composting that we can do in our backyard gardens. We've also now allowed folks to grow vegetables in the backyard and sell them in the front yard.
Yep. You mean you don't have to go to the farmer's market?
You don't.
Nope.
You can have a farm stand at home or in your community garden now.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, when you think about that, so Joan, how much space do you need? I mean, can somebody with a regular city lot really garden?
absolutely. We're doing vegetable gardens in 4-foot by 8-foot sections. Someone has some single bed, someone has 2 beds. We're doing vertical gardening. You can get a lot of food in a small space. The only piece you really need to provide is the sun. You've got to have the 6 to 8 hours of sun to be able to put those garden beds in.
So if you have a shady lawn or shady yard, you're kind of out of luck, huh?
Then, yep, go ahead.
I'd say you could still really be a great participant in the food system if you have a shady lawn, if you grow a shade garden that is pollinator friendly. So you can use native, blooming, shade-loving plants, and you can grow a wide variety of different plants in your yard that will still help the food system in general by allowing the pollinators a forage place, a place to live and eat, and then they can go around to the tomato plants in the neighbor's garden and get those pollinated.
Okay, so you have to, I think what you're saying when you say pollinator is a bee, right?
Bees, butterflies, bats, birds, squirrels, all little creatures that come in contact, flies, mosquitoes, anything that comes in contact with flowers. Bees tend to be the best pollinators, but all of those little creatures that come in contact with the flower, they can take pollen from one flower to another and help pollination occur that way.
Now, you said perennials are one of your specialties.
Vegetables.
Yeah, vegetables. Yep. But now, what about so what kind of things would you plant that would be good for the pollinators? Go ahead.
Well, it's important to have a wide variety of different sizes of blooms in order to support a wide spectrum of pollinators.
Oh, really? So like little bugs and big bugs?
Little bugs and big bugs. So think of little bitty flowers like asters and Verbena bonariensis. Tiny little flowers, very important for the smallest pollinators that we have. And then if you think of bigger flowers like coneflower or even perennial hibiscus, very big flowers, good for the bigger pollinators. To have a wide spectrum and especially to focus on the native plants, that is what brings pollinators into the garden.
Wow, in the city.
In the city, yeah. And actually, we found some bee experts at the University of Minnesota Bee Lab. They've been telling folks in the city that we're actually a very great place for pollinators, because if you think about what's going on in the countryside right now, it's pretty much corn or soybeans everywhere. And here in the city, we have a wide variety of gardens, lots of different types of gardens, shade gardens, sun gardens, native plants, you know, everybody's favorite flowering plants, petunias and such. So we can really support a wide, diverse array of pollinators.
They're as diverse as the plants.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you're the person here who can tell us about what, if you were just going to be starting out as a gardener, what would you suggest to somebody who says, I think I'm going to throw a few seeds in the ground?
Well, I tell them to sort of take a step back and decide how big a space you actually want to grow. I usually tell people to start small so they're not overwhelmed, and to be looking at what they enjoy to eat. And I tell people that putting in a vegetable garden, or especially a vegetable garden, if you're looking at, it's like getting a puppy. You have to pay attention to it. You have to take care of it. You have to nurture it. You wouldn't go on vacation and leave your puppy to wander around the house for a week. You have someone to take care of it. You have to do the same thing with your garden. So you have to be sort of paying attention throughout the whole process of your garden. And that's where people tend to not do as well. They think if I plant it, it's good to go and I can harvest it. No, there's stuff you have to do every single week to have it be successful.
Now, what are some of the easier plants to grow? I mean, what will sort of give you a better chance at success?
Lettuces are great. Spinach, some of your root crops, your carrots and your beets can be very good. Your herbs are also very straightforward to grow. I'd hesitate to start people out on like the hardcore tomatoes or the peppers but you know what? The best way to learn is to plant it and experiment with it and see how it comes up for you, because that's how I learned, that's how Russ learned. It's all about planting stuff and seeing what works for you and what doesn't, Now,
I know you do a lot of composting stuff.
I'm a compost guy. Yeah.
So how do you do compost if you have a city lot? You don't want to offend your neighbors or anything.
That's right. There's really good ways to control for smell when you're composting. The best and most easiest way is for folks to understand that anytime you put food waste on top of the pile, since that's going to be the smelly part, you want to cover that up with some kind of either wood chips or leaves. And that way you've got what they call the greens with the food waste and the browns, so kind of heavy nitrogen material and more carbon material. The carbon material, wood chips or leaves, will actually soak up the smelly gases that are coming off of the compost pile.
It's like a filter, carbon filter.
Waste. It's like a carbon filter, exactly. And those gases are not only, they don't just represent a smell, they also represent nutrition escaping in gas form through the pile.
So that by tamping down them, then you keep more...
By capturing them, you're actually locking all of that nutrition into the carbon material that you've put on top.
Now, if you're going to use compost, how long from dumping my garbage out to planting it in my garden?
Depends on how you manage your compost pile. A really well-managed compost pile that's turned at least every 6 months and kept with good moisture level, and that is of a sufficient size to heat up. So you need at least about 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet in order to make a nice hot compost pile. That, if you do that, will give you compost within 9 months. And I like to use compost that has not been completely composted all the way through, because then you still have the compost process, or basically all of those little microbes and little bugs that live on the compostables. They come and live in your garden and they supply nutrition to the plants. If you bring the compost in when there's still chunks of wood in it that you can see, it still smells a little bit like rot and a little bit like finished compost, that's at the perfect stage, because then you bring a lot of life into your soil.
Now, if you're going to go organic, Joan, how do you do that? I mean, can you go grow organically in the city?
Absolutely. All of our seedlings that we grow are organic from start to finish, and we grow our own to make sure of that process. We use organic compost, we use organic materials, we use organic seeds. I mean, you really want to try and keep it that way, so you know exactly where your food's coming from and what's going into it.
But now, if I went into my backyard and thought, okay, I'm going to put a garden in here, that wouldn't be, the soil would not be organic, would it?
What you can amend the soil. That's the big piece. We usually advise if you're going to put a garden in the ground in the city, that you get your soil tested, and that's through the University of Minnesota Extensive Service. You go online, they tell you exactly what you need to do, and you get your soil tested, because there's a lot of lead and arsenic remnants that are left over in the city soil. Our beds are raised beds that sit right on top of the soil, and we create our own soil mixture, so we're not going into the ground, so we know that it's organic from start to finish. If you get your soil results back and your garden looks, your soil results are good, then you're going to add compost to the place that you're going to be gardening. You're going to double dig it in and create a nice deep layer of loose and friable soil to put your vegetables in. You don't want to just put them right in the ground, because it's hard, it's compact, and the roots can't party. They can't do the thing they do to create your food. You want it to be nice and loose and workable.
Well, so in other words, I can't just go out there and start digging and planting.
You can dig, but you want to make sure you amend it. Add that compost to
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you, I guess a lot of us don't know too much about what we're doing. Or we're sort of like a lot of failure the first time around.
There is. I do landscape consultations as part of my landscaping business, and I get into people's backyards, and folks start kind of telling me all about their woes in the landscape right away. And I'll tell you, people have a lot of hesitation, and I understand. They don't want to make mistakes in the garden, and they don't want to feel like they're doing something wrong in the environment. And so a lot of my job as a consultant is to help folks kind of get past that and see that there's a lot of easy ways to have fun and learn out in the garden, and that interaction with nature in your own garden is not something that's really dangerous or that you have to worry too much about. You can experiment, you can do some reading online or have friends over and help you, or get an expert over, and then you can just jump into it and get started. A little compost goes a long way, so maybe you don't just start digging right away, but if you have the compost, then you can kind of just start digging right away.
Mm-hmm. And do you find the same thing to be true, that people are sort of maybe put the cart before the horse sometimes?
Yeah, I meet with a lot of families who've started, or in schools and organizations where they've started with the big garden and it hasn't been a success for them. And so we come in and teach them how to have their soil be correct, how to use a healthy plants and seedlings, how to water. A lot of people have no idea how to consistently water, especially for a vegetable garden. Some real basic steps that are going to help them be more successful as they go forward.
Well, that's a very good question, because now I've heard that you can't just, rain is not a 30-second thing, and so when you're gardening, how do you know when you've given them enough water?
Well, it depends on what kind of, for me it's the vegetables, and it depends on what kind you're working with. Tomatoes, they have deeper roots. They only get watered once or twice a week, but most of your vegetables are all shallow-rooted plants, and they can get watered, once a day for a 10-minute period. We just water them. You have to think of a garden, especially a raised bed garden, as being a giant hanging basket. It's going to dry out faster than a garden that's in the ground. So you have to really be aware of, and it's like testing a pie in the oven. You stick the thing in to see if the center's done. Well, you're going to use your finger and check your soil and see if it needs water, if it doesn't, and it's something that you learn how to do.
Well, now I know you had said before we started talking about vertical gardening, which sounded really good if you live in the city. So how do you vertically garden?
We put up a trellis that's 6 feet tall and 8 feet wide behind your bed, and you can grow anything that vines up the trellis. Tomatoes, cucumbers, green beans, pumpkins, squash. I've had 30-pound Hubbard squash hanging off my trellis. So you're taking.
When you say trellis, though, you must mean serious trellis.
Well, it's set into the ground using rebar, so it's not going to tip or fall over. So it's going to be able to hold the weight of the food that's growing up it. And what's amazing with the larger vegetables is the stem gets strong enough and wide enough to support the vegetables on the vine. You think it would just fall over, but you're working with mini pumpkins or squashes. They're going to stay up there and be just happy. So they're your space hogs. So there's room in the rest of your garden to do their own thing without having these. They're all growing in your vertical space. It's like doubling. So
really, you could put that like in the back of your garden against a wall or something like that, and then you'd have all that flat space in front of it to plant other things?
Yep, it's pretty much doubling the size of your garden.
Yeah. Now, Minnesota, short growing season, so many ways to extend your garden, your season. What is a hoop house?
We do mini hoop houses.
Go for it.
You do, yeah. So what we do is we just take, it's very simple. It involves 10-foot long PVC poles, 3mm painter's plastic, and spring clamp clips from Menards or Home Depot. And you can create a little mini greenhouse over your bed. We go out February, beginning of March, cover all of our returning customers' gardens with this, and we're out there planting by the end of March. We're already harvesting.
So it's like a tent, sort of.
Yep, it's like a tent over your garden. And
Does it really keep the heat in?
it really keeps the heat in. We've got our experimental garden in our front yard. We planted on March 8th, and we're already harvesting full bok choys or snap peas are this big.
Wow. Now, where do you live?
Exactly. And it snowed and it's dropped below freezing during the spring, and underneath the plastic, things are just happy little
So
campers.
people can do that in their backyards as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Urban farmers employ a lot of
Well,
techniques
that's what I
like
wondered.
that.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
So in Minneapolis and actually in a lot of cities in the U.S. And around the world, there are farmers that are learning, folks who are learning how to farm in the city on empty lots in the city. They employ a lot, especially up here in Minneapolis, they employ a lot of season extension techniques. Hoop houses, high tunnels, which is basically a miniature hoop house, which it just kind of fits right over the row crop.
Oh,
Goes
really?
all the way along the row. Same thing, PVC and plastic sheeting, but just in miniature. So it's not something you walk on or walk under, you just flip it up when you want to get to your plants.
Do you, and then it must have some way for the sun to get through.
Well, it's
clear- like clear
it's clear
plastic?
or pretty much see-through
Now,
plastic.
if I did that for my whatever, then do you fasten it down so that it's
You don't want it to blow away,
Well,
so you
that's
got to
what
put
I
some
wondered
stakes in the
about. Yeah.
ground. And it's the same with the hoop houses. You want to make sure those are very secured. to the
yeah.
ground.
But then don't you have to take it up to check on them and water them and stuff, or?
You have to be very aware of what the temperature is. I mean, if we're getting into the 70s and 80s, that plastic's going to come off because things will bake
Fry
under
underneath there.
Yep, but we keep the plastic by the garden, so our last frost date is usually May 15th-ish. A couple of years ago it wasn't. So just in case we get a cold snap, we can put the plastic back up and get everything covered. But right now everything's uncovered because the weather's been great the last 2 weeks.
So now, what other things are there? I mean, I know that in the South they use heaters and stuff like that. Do we use anything like that here?
For season extension?
Yeah.
Cold frames are used a lot in the backyard.
What's a cold
And so
frame?
that's something, it's basically just like the high tunnel, only in miniature, for your little garden plot. So on a raised bed, you could come in and you get a glass window, and you build yourself some walls, some short walls out of wood planks, about 12 inches tall, depending how tall you need them. And then you just put that glass window over the top, and again, it's a miniature greenhouse.
So then you can lift that off at any time, and then there it is.
There it is, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know my mother, I think, used to have some sort of little thing that she would put over tomato plants. Is that the same idea? It seems
Same
like,
idea. Yep, they
Yeah.
make little tiny miniature things.
Yeah,
Little covers that you can sit down.
Cold, okay, so it hasn't changed. It's just gotten a lot bigger over the years, huh?
That's right, yeah.
Well, now, you said just quickly at the beginning that people could sell their food in their front yard,
That's right. We can have farm stands in Minneapolis, yeah.
and don't the neighbors not like that?
Oh, I don't know. I think the neighbors might like that.
Really?
You know, if you got some tomatoes that they could buy, some strawberries, that kind of thing. Yeah, we actually, that passed in 2012 as a part of the Urban Ag Text Amendments, we called it. So we went through the entire city code and we said, how can we make it easier and better for urban farmers and for gardeners? And in that process, we made many changes in the city code, one of which is allowing folks to come and sell food from their backyard in their front yard. Well, that change was actually, neighborhood organizations were really behind that.
Really?
Because it allows for more healthy food access in neighborhoods where, you know, in a lot of Minneapolis neighborhoods, we don't have a lot of healthy food access. It can be difficult, you know, if all you have down the street is the corner store with pop chips and candy, it can be difficult to get access to really good, healthy food. And the more we make that accessible through the farm stands, through farmers markets, we also have mobile farmers markets, or mobile markets that are just off the back of a bus or a van that can pull up to your neighborhood and start selling folks really good, healthy food. So in lots of ways, and I should mention the Staple Foods Ordinance. So back to those corner stores, here in Minneapolis, we've also actually just recently required that corner stores, any store actually that accepts EBT, food benefits, or food stamps or WIC, those stores have to sell fresh, healthy vegetables and fruits.
Really?
Used to be, we required just a handful, about 5 actual fruits, and now we require a whole fruit section, a whole vegetable section, meat and dairy, and the whole,
Now,
really a whole
in
food
theory,
diet.
could that small grocery guy just go down the street and say, okay, I'll contract with you for what's grown in your backyard?
Exactly, and that has been happening in some instances.
Really?
Yes. The St. Thomas University, their biology department has been really helpful in developing a procurement system for the corner stores. The students at St. Thomas have grown a lot of produce over the last 2 years, and these dedicated students get up at 6 in the morning on Saturdays and go around and make a route to all the corner stores that are in their system, and they sell them the vegetables in the amounts that the corner store owners need. So it's been a really wonderful system to help bring healthy food to corner stores that service neighborhoods and now can serve neighborhoods in an even more healthy way.
So now, and I know the other thing that somebody talked about was boulevard strips. Can you plant there too? Is that against the law? Or
It's not against the law.
In St. Paul, you can't go more than 36 inches high.
Same in Minneapolis.
So they've got a
That's
limit on
for-
how high you
So
can
you
go.
couldn't be growing vertical gardens there, but you could have like small things.
Well, it's not always recommended to grow fruit on the boulevards. I think now it's legal. It was illegal to grow fruit or vegetables on the boulevards because of contamination worries. But we've got great raised bed methods and compost we add to the soil so that we can deal with the contamination. And in that way, I think it's a little safer if you're growing in a raised bed to go ahead and grow vegetables on the boulevard. But really, the boulevards are rugged places. They get a lot of salt. They get a
So
car.
you really have to work that soil to make it growable.
Well, I just recommend growing pollinator plants on the boulevard instead. Native plants, daylilies, hostas, what have you, that are going to work on the rugged conditions of the
plant.
boulevard. Yeah, and actually, white clover. That's a really good plant for gardeners to get to know. It's a wonderful cover crop, and I use it up under shrubs, under trees, around perennials. You can throw in just the seeds, and then it'll create what I call a living mulch. So it's covering the ground, and it's
White
shading the
clover.
ground. Dutch white clover. It grows as a weed in many of our
Right,
yards.
yes.
And in fact, it used to come in all grass seed mix.
Well, yes, I remember that when I was a younger person.
Yeah, right. So now I've been, and a lot of folks have been using that in the urban setting. It's a pollinator plant. It works great on the boulevards, and it's just an excellent companion plant in the garden. I should mention that as a legume, which is a member of the pea family, the white clover actually puts nutrition in the form of nitrogen in the ground while it grows.
So it really is fertilizing it
It's
while
helping
it's
the
growing
rest
too.
of the plants.
Yeah. Well, now as you're looking at what's the future of urban gardening, do you think? And as far as you're concerned, Joan.
The future of urban gardening is going nowhere but straight up through the roof. I mean, people are so interested. What I've found is growing your own food was part of our grandparents' generation. Our grandpas did it, our mothers did it. I'm at the end of the baby boomer generation, and I grew up on fast food. I mean, we were the fast food babies. And I'm finding a lot of parents, a lot of schools, they want that information back in their family system, back in their family structure. And they want their kids to know how to do it, and they want to know how to do it. They want to bring that back. And I just think people are just thrilled to be able to do this now.
So they're diving into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now, you just mentioned the schools. Are schools having their own gardens by any chance?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. We work with 15, 20 different schools in the Twin Cities. The elders, working with senior residence homes as well. Group homes, working with developmentally disabled. I mean, it's really, I must meet with anywhere from 500 to 800 preschoolers every week all summer long. Working with them from seed to table where the food comes from. There's nothing more fun, so, yep.
That's wonderful.
And they're learning how to garden. I mean,
Oh,
so
yes.
they won't be like their parents' generations, that they'll have to learn it when they grow up. They'll really
Yeah. Beginning of the season, I say, who wants to try something? I get 2 hands up. By the end of the season, everybody's hands up. They want to go out there, they want to pick and eat everything right out of the garden. They know that it tastes like candy. It tastes different than anything they've ever eaten before.
Now, do you think that this is really, one of the things that the League of Women Voters thought when we did this program, and it was in 2012, on healthy living, that if they raised this stuff, they would start to eat better. Do you think that's really happening? I mean, are we being successful?
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
yeah. Folks from kids to elders, everybody in between, we're all learning a lot more. We're rediscovering this lost knowledge, And absolutely, it's affecting our health in Minneapolis. I think we have one of the healthiest cities by many different rankings, and healthy food access plays no small part in that.
And so people really are changing their eating patterns.
They are.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'd add to the future of urban farming, I'd say the future of urban farming has a focus on permaculture.
What is that?
Permaculture is the design of a permanent, sustainable culture. And so in doing permaculture practices, we try and look at the city and say, how can we make this a more sustainable city? Urban agriculture has gotten us a long way towards that, and now it's time to look at the practices of the city departments and say, how can we as a city be the example for how to live sustainably and how to manage land and bring people together around ecology and around gardening? How can we bring people together in a way to create a sustainable, healthy city?
So it's not only planting, it's building community too.
It is. It's very much
absolutely.
building community.
Well, and now I know that some of these things are sort of cyclical, but are people, is it important enough to people that they are going to continue to do it? It's not like another one of these fads?
No, it's not. It's not. We're growing every single year. I keep thinking I'm gonna saturate an area, and every year I get 10 more phone calls. I mean, I don't see it waning at all. I just see it going. They had an article in the Time magazine just early this spring about it, that not being a fad, that it's just going to continue getting stronger and stronger.
And now we are in Minnesota, so we do have certain limitations. How long a growing season could we theoretically have?
Is this with or without the
With
future
with
of climate
with
change?
help. Oh, no, not
Exactly.
It's not longer.
According to Mark Seeley, the U of M climatologist, we're in Minnesota about to have Missouri's climate.
Really?
So I couldn't really tell you how long the growing season is in Missouri, but I bet it's a month on either side longer than what we have now.
So in other words, it's going to get better in some senses while it's getting worse in other senses.
It's getting weird.
Sure, it's getting weird, and while there might be warmer weather, there may also be more drought. There may also be issues of more extreme weather events.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily just smooth sailing if we get a little warmer.
So it's weather. It's weather and interest that are going to make this all happen in our city.
Absolutely.
But obviously, according to the two of you, we're on the move.
We're on the move. Things are growing,
That's great.
and I think that this urban ag stuff is here to stay.
That is awesome. Well, isn't this exciting to think that you too could be an urban gardener, even if you got a very tiny space. So we hope that you've learned a little bit tonight about gardening, and that maybe you'll go out and put a few seeds in the ground this spring. Our guests this evening have been Joan James from Backyard Farm and Russ Henry from Giving Tree Gardens. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, John.
Thank
This
you.
is Joan Higinbotham for the League of Women Voters of Minneapolis saying thanks for tuning in to We the People. We hope you join us again.